If you've ever held a newborn human, you've held the most helpless creature on Earth. It can't hold up its own head. It can't roll over. It can't crawl, can't cling, can't feed itself, can't even keep itself warm. It can do almost nothing except cry and wait for someone to keep it alive. And it will stay this way, utterly dependent, for years. Now look at almost any other animal. A baby zebra stands within minutes of being born and can outrun a lion the same day. A foal walks within an hour. A baby antelope, a fawn, a calf, up on its feet and moving while it's still wet. Even our closest cousins do better. A newborn chimpanzee can grip its mother's fur and hold on tight enough to be carried through the trees within days. Your baby cannot do a single one of those things. By the standards of the animal kingdom, human infants are born absurdly, dangerously early, as if something went wrong. But nothing went wrong. This helplessness is not a flaw. It is one of the most important trade-offs in the entire human story. And it secretly explains three of the biggest mysteries about us: why we're so intelligent, why childbirth is so dangerous, and why human beings simply cannot survive alone. So let's figure out why your species ships its young so catastrophically unfinished. But before that, don't forget to like and subscribe. So, the first answer is a brutal collision between two things that made us human. The classic explanation has a name: the obstetrical dilemma. Back in 1960, an anthropologist named Sherwood Washburn pointed to a problem hiding in the human body, a conflict between two of our defining traits. The first is that we walk upright. To do that efficiently, evolution narrowed and reshaped the human pelvis, tightening the bony ring that a baby has to pass through to be born. The second is that we grew enormous brains, and enormous brains mean enormous heads. You can probably already feel the trap. The head is getting bigger, the opening is getting smaller. These two trends are on a collision course, and something has to give. According to this theory, the compromise is birth itself. The baby has to come out before its head grows too large to fit, which means it has to come out long before it's actually ready for the world. Human childbirth becomes a tight, painful, genuinely dangerous squeeze, and the baby arrives half-finished because the alternative is that it never fits through at all. And just how unfinished is it? This is the part that stuns people. Some scientists describe human pregnancy as having a kind of missing fourth trimester. If a human baby were born as developmentally mature as a newborn chimp, able to cling, to support itself, to engage with the world, the pregnancy wouldn't last 9 months. It would last somewhere closer to 18 or 21 months, nearly 2 years. In other words, your baby is essentially born a year too soon. We evict our infants while they are still, by every biological measure, fetuses on the outside. We call the first 3 months of a newborn's life the fourth trimester for a reason. It's a pregnancy that finishes in your arms. For decades, this was the accepted story. We walk upright, so we squeeze our babies out early. Clean, logical, repeated in every textbook. But here's the twist. In the last few years, scientists started testing that story, and it began to fall apart. The problem is the pelvis. The whole obstetrical dilemma rests on the idea that a wider pelvis, one big enough to birth a more mature baby, would have ruined our ability to walk and run. But when researchers actually measured this, they found something inconvenient. A wider pelvis barely affects how efficiently a person moves. The supposed trade-off that the entire theory depended on didn't really exist. So, in 2012, a team led by anthropologist Holly Dunsworth proposed a completely different answer. And it has nothing to do with the size of the birth canal. It has to do with energy. Their idea is called the metabolic hypothesis, and it works like this. A growing fetus is metabolically ravenous. It demands more and more energy from the mother every single week. But a mother's body can only supply so much. There is a ceiling, roughly twice her normal resting metabolism, beyond which she physically cannot sustain the pregnancy any longer. Under this theory, birth isn't triggered by a baby running out of room. It's triggered by a baby running out of fuel. Labor begins at the moment the fetus's hunger for energy finally outpaces everything her mother's body can give. The baby comes out not because it won't fit, but because she can no longer feed it on the inside. Now here's what's fascinating. It almost doesn't matter which theory is right. Because the consequence is the same, and the consequence is the most important part of this entire story. Whatever forces it out early, the human baby finishes building its brain outside the womb, in the open air, in the world. And that changes everything. A newborn human's brain is only about a quarter of its final adult size. Over the first year of life, it does something almost no other organ does. It keeps growing at the explosive pace of a fetus, tripling in size, wiring itself together at a furious rate. But here's the crucial part. It's doing all of that while the baby is awake in the world, while it's staring at faces, hearing voices, soaking in language, expressions, warmth, danger, love. Think about what that means. A foal is born with a brain that's essentially finished, preloaded, ready to run, but locked. A human is born with a brain that is still under construction, and that construction is shaped by the actual environment the child lands in. Your native language, the faces you trust, the culture you absorb without trying, all of it gets wired in during that exposed, helpless building period. Helplessness, it turns out, is the price of an open mind. A finished brain is a rigid brain. We are born unfinished precisely so that the world itself can help build us. That terrifying vulnerability is the very thing that makes humans the most adaptable, most teachable, most intelligent animal that has ever lived. But there's a catch, and it rewrote the entire structure of human society. A baby this helpless for this long is an impossible burden. No single mother, on her own in the ancient world, could gather enough food and fend off enough danger to raise a child that needs years of constant care, while likely already carrying or nursing the next one. The math doesn't work. A lone human mother and her helpless infant should not have survived at all. So we became something rare. The anthropologist Sarah Blaffer-Erde argues that humans are cooperative breeders, a species where raising a child was never the job of one person, but of many. Grandmothers, fathers, aunts, siblings, friends. The deep, defining social nature, our drive to care for one another, may exist in large part because our babies left us no other choice. The helplessness didn't just shape the child, it shaped us. It built human society itself. And here's the small, perfect detail that gives the whole thing away. You can still feel a ghost of an older world in a newborn's hand. Place a finger in a newborn's palm and it will grip hard. So hard, in fact, that a newborn's grasp is strong enough to nearly support its own body weight. It's called the palmar grasp reflex, and the baby has no idea it's doing it. So, why is a creature that can't lift its own head born with a grip like that? Because for millions of years, the babies that came before it weren't being set down in cribs. They were clinging to the fur of a mother who carried them everywhere, who could not afford to have a baby that let go. That reflex is a fossil in the flesh, a leftover instinct from an age of fur and branches still firing in a child who will never need it. The body remembers a way of life the mind will never know. You have spent your whole life as the finished product of this strange beginning, but you started exactly here, as the most helpless animal on the planet, born a year too soon, your brain still half-built, gripping at fur that wasn't there, completely dependent on people choosing again and again to keep you alive. And that helplessness was not your weakness. It was the doorway to everything you are. Because you weren't born unfinished by accident. You were born unfinished so that language could pour in, so that faces and voices and love could wire themselves into you, so that a whole circle of people would gather around and build you, together, into a human being. So the next time you hold a newborn, that fragile, useless, miraculous little creature that can't do anything but cry and grip and wait, understand what you're really holding. Not a helpless animal. An unfinished mind wide open to the world, waiting for all of us to help right it. We are the only animal born too soon, and it's the very reason we became human at all.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.